Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. This is the live show once again. Just going to do this. Move this around here. Let's move this a little more like here. And there we go. Welcome aboard, everybody. And everything seems to be okay. So, hey everyone, welcome aboard. This is the Shortwave radio live show. We are live twice a week, Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 0 hours Universal Time. That's Thursday for a lot of people. And we are also live on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 20 hours Universal Time. And we talk about radio, shortwave radio in general. And we tune the bands and we just, have fun and talk about radio. The Wednesday show is getting back to a more educational format, while the Saturday show is anything goes format. So tuning the bands and all of that. So tonight we got a pretty good list of questions. We might not go through all of them because I talk too much and we end up answering a quarter of everything. But there are questions left from last week and there's some new questions. And what I tell everybody is, you know what, we're going to answer the questions. And as we go through, we keep the questions we haven't answered for the week after. And Wednesday night is let's really have, a learning curve or a learning moment. A lot of questions for shortwave radio. It's like every hobby. There's so many things that we don't know when we start. And, somebody asked me, he says, well, shortwave radio is a complex hobby. And after a couple of minutes, I thought, you know what? Every hobby is complex. It depends up to what level you want to go to on that hobby. I remember when I was young, my dad did some stamp collecting, but it was kind of of interesting stamp collecting because it was, we had these books and we put stamps that go with the books that we had and the pictures, and we were happy because there was a stamp that I have for that country in that book. And what I learned is, in reality, we didn't really know exactly what we were doing, but it just seemed fun. We were collecting stamps from countries all over the world, and it was kind of cool to have a stamp that's in that book. And but in reality, after a certain time, I realized we didn't really know exactly what we were doing. When you look at the real hardcore stamp collectors, they know a lot more and they know stuff. And it's like, well, that's not worth anything. And that's, I wasn't there. I was more in the, this is so cool. I got that stamp from, if anybody that did the stamp collecting, if you remember, like before Hungary was like, you had stamps from Magyar or whatever it was called. But I remember seeing that. And it was like, that's Hungary today. But there was a fun part of it because shortwave radio, and it's an international thing, and you had stamp collecting, with stamps from all over the world. So there was an interesting aspect to it that was kind of cool. But, I didn't know anything. I still don't know anything about stamp collecting, about the fact, apart from the fact that they come from all over the world. So when somebody tells me, well, shortwave's complex hobby, I think a hobby is a hobby. Every hobby is a complex hobby. Whatever you do, you gotta know what's good, what's bad, what you're wasting your time on or not. It's just a hobby. A hobby has so many aspects of what it could be. Shortwave radio is the same thing, and it's not more complex to be in shortwave radio than stamp collecting, than whatever, coin collection. It's not just getting a coin from 1925 that's important. It's the type of coin and the type of, what exactly does it represent? Because I mean, you could have, a penny from 1930, but if there is like a billion out there, it's not worth anything. There are certain aspects and certain things, and the quality, how it's preserved. So every hobby is complex. I don't think shortwave is more complex than any other. It's complex in its own way, and its own technology, and its own understanding of why things happen and why they are the way they are. That's what's important here, and to understand why is everything happening the way it is. I didn't understand a thing about shortwave when I started in 1982. I'm gonna take a little sip here. Vodka and cranberry juice. Cheers. And basically, what happens is that sorry. So basically, you have the learning curve. You need to understand why things are the way they are. I had a good start, because Emmanuel explained to me some basics. It didn't explain to me much about, why is that frequency heard at that time and not at other times, and all of that is so complex. There's so much to learn. Like I said, like every hobby. But it's interesting also to note that most hobbies, even stamp collecting, I don't see, the young generation today stamp collecting, or, of course we don't send letters like we used to, but there's still quite a lot of stamps out there from countries from different, time periods. We're talking about how shortwave doesn't appeal to young generation. Almost every hobby that we can think of the good old days. My dad loved to build, ships and planes and stuff from that. You would buy the kit, with like 10,000 pieces of whatever, and it would build these ships and stuff, and he would love to do that. And I don't see that also going on. It's interesting because we think of shortwave as a hobby kind of dying with the young generation. But look at every aspect of every different hobbies that exist today that were strong in the 60s, 70s. Even electronic, like building kits and electronic stuff. I mean, that was a big thing when I was young. It was like, hey, I want to build that radio with my soldering iron, and I got the parts, and this is so cool. There's nothing like that today. We are in a world where there's like not nothing, but it seems that nobody's doing it anymore. It seems that, I don't know, the young generation, maybe if they'd build a smartphone, here's your iPhone in kit. You can build it for $200. And even that, you're like, well, I don't want to build it. I want to have it in my hands already working. Is there such a thing as a generation today that just wants to have it working and that's it? Maybe. And maybe not. At the same time, I look at when I was young, it's not everybody that wanted to build a radio. It's not everybody that wanted to do these kind of things. There was part of that generation when I was young that it is flipped. I just saw the flip. Thanks for mentioning the flip. There you go. Now it should be okay. So, anyways, it's funny because when we talk about everybody wants stuff to be, they just want it to work. I think you are, just, yeah, the camera's like there and I'm looking here. I think you just, I think it's always been like that people wanted and everybody wanted to have something that is, already works basically. And it's a funny thing to think about our hobby today. And, I say it so often. It's like, in 1982, you would have told me you're going to be doing live shows talking about shortwave radio in front of an audience that's going to watch you from all over the world. I would have probably said, yeah, right. Me in front of an audience. First of all, that probably would be the first thing, not even talking about shortwave or anything. It would have been just, yeah, like I'm going to talk in front of an audience. Yeah, right. It's like talking in front of the class. Everybody's like scared. We all just like, go crazy and like, shit in our pants or something. And so I would have been like, yeah, right. Yeah, me talking in front of an audience, please. And basically, that would have been the first comment. I didn't really think of past. In 1982, shortwave was, of course, there were the signals everywhere and low noise. So there was so much to hear on the bands. I don't think in 1982 I was thinking of shortwave is going to be different and there's going to be less stations. I wasn't there. I wasn't there until I later in the 80s we started losing some shortwave stations. When I say internet has nothing to do with stations going off, in the 1980s shortwave was already in decline. And you lose shortwave stations here and there. You lose, Radio RSA from South Africa. You lose Radio Nacional do Brasil with English programs, Radio Brás. You lose stuff here and there, and you realize you're losing some stations from time to time. But it's a slow decline in the 80s. It's one station here, one station there. Nothing really major. Then we get into the 90s, and in the 90s there was still some stuff that I would listen to, but you realize things are changing. And then you get into 2020 and it's like, wow, okay, there's still a lot of stations. If you look at the EIBI Space 24-hour schedules, there's tons of things that are stations that are still in the air. There's tons of things to listen to, but it's very different, and there's an added difficulty. There's an added I'd say there's an added challenge, which is not only do you have a little less to listen to, even though there's still a lot, but you have to, yes, boing, but you have to deal with the noise around you. In the last week, I had quite a few posts of people saying, you know what? I don't hear a thing on my radio. I don't hear one thing on my radio. And of course, the first impression of everybody that doesn't hear anything is what? It's my radio's broken. But in reality, the radio probably is fine. What is happening is you're getting too much noise where you live and where you are. It's washing out whatever signal you might be actually listening to. And that's a hard one because when I see a post like that, what do you say to somebody that doesn't hear anything? I don't hear a thing on my radio. Yeah, you got too much noise. How do you explain that? It's a tough one to explain because people expect to turn on that radio in the middle of their living room, tune to whatever signals out there, and like, wow, this is cool. It's shortwave. Well, it's not as easy as that today, and unfortunately, noise has a big problem. There's one noise is the number one problem actually. Then you have to deal with the knowledge, the lack of knowledge, and of understanding why you should not listen at that time of day on that band or whatever. And that, of course, will bring another comment that I hear all the time is, well, it's full of religious stations there. Yeah. In North America, one of the things that is interesting, that is very different from the rest of the world on shortwave, is the fact that there are quite a few private broadcasters. There's quite a few private broadcasters. Oh, let me try that. I see Mickey Dalmage here with Radio Thailand. Do I hear Radio Thailand? Yeah, nothing here, unfortunately. So sad. Haven't heard Radio Thailand in such a long time. 13750. Some of you might hear that. So anyways, one of the things that is sad. I lost my train of thought here, but so yeah, religious broadcasters in North America. There's a very unique thing about that, is that private broadcasters are always there's tons of them in the US that broadcast religious stuff 24 hours a day. So what's going to happen with that is we just have to deal with the fact that at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, chances are Jesus is everywhere on the bands. And I know that a lot of people are not really there. I'm not there. I'm zero interested in any of that type of broadcasting. And it's obvious that it overwhelms the band sometimes. So people, will like, yeah, well, I don't know how many times I heard people saying, it's like, when all I hear is religion or Jesus or whatever. Yeah, because these are the signals that are the strongest. One of the biggest problems in North America is the lack of direct broadcast to North America from a lot of broadcasters. That doesn't help us, it doesn't mean that you can't hear any broadcasts, but because most of them broadcast to Europe or Africa, they're weaker. And add the fact that there's a lot of noise, well, it makes it really, really tough to tune around. So, sometimes answering a question is a tough one. My heart does kind of break a little bit when I hear somebody saying, well, I purchased a shortwave radio. I was watching your channel. You get all that stuff. I get nothing. I guess there's nothing on the bands, or I guess my radio's broken, or I guess and you're like, yeah, yeah, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to tell you. It's easy to tell somebody go and tune in a park. Yeah, but maybe you don't feel like going to the park with your radio in the middle of nowhere. That's not where you want to tune a radio. You want to tune it in your home, and I totally get it. And I think that is one of the biggest problems of shortwave broadcasting today and listening to shortwave. Honestly, it's the fact that there's so much interference that listening to your favorite stations might mean listening somewhere else than your home. And not a lot of people, not necessarily everyone wants to do that. We understand it. We're big fans of shortwave and we're like really crazy people here. But, I would like to listen to some broadcasts in a much easier way, like, than what it is now. When I moved there in 2000, it was the first time that I was confronted with high noise levels. Where I lived before, it was super quiet. And when you move, and I in the 80s, it was rather quiet. I moved to a new address in 1991 ish, somewhere there, so 92 maybe. That was quiet. So, of course, you spent your young days in a quiet environment. You move to a new place as an adult. It's a quiet environment. You don't think about. You don't think about. Um, you don't think about noise. You move to a new place. It's not something you think about. There was no noise when I was young, and there's no noise where I moved. You don't think about noise. And then suddenly I move here and I'm confronted with something I never had before, noise. I suddenly understood that my shortwave passion had taken a different turn, that listening to my favorite stations was going to be more difficult than ever before. And why did I continue? Why did I? Probably because I'm a little crazy. I mean, come on, I'm a little crazy. And maybe because I really am a fan of listening to the world around us. Maybe because I was a fan. And I mean, in 2000, when I moved there were still quite a few stations to listen to that still broadcast in North America. When I moved there in 2000, you could still listen to Radio Sweden. You could still listen to Radio Netherlands. I could still listen to HCJB. I could still listen to quite a few broadcasters that were strong enough to overcome the noise. Because one thing we notice is it might be noisy, but a lot of broadcasters, when they do broadcast to North America, when propagation is good, they often kind of overpower that noise somewhat, But, stations continue to decline, even though I still say it. There's a lot of shortwave that is, is worth listening to. It's very different from the past, that's for sure. So, my name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, northeast part of North America. And we, of course, talk about radio twice a week. Hope you enjoyed the show today. Hope that you are going to be entertained by my live show. And it's a lot of fun to be here and talk about radio. Lots of questions today. And we're going to start by going to the chat room. That because I've been like talking for 25 minutes. Bobby Burgess, WA5107 SWL in Morgan City, Louisiana, USA. Hello there, Rob. Nice to have you here in Phoenix, Arizona. Robert Prosper, nice to have you on board from No Thanksgiving Day Parade for you this year, New York. Yeah, that's a big thing usually, that parade. Sad times, and there's so many things. This year, I think we're just going to forget about it. I'm not even doing anything at Christmas and New Year with the family and stuff. We just kind of like, you know what? We have next year. Let's hope next year things get better. Prasad, nice to have you here in India. No problem. See you later. Inufumi Yokoyama, nice to have you here. JA1004 SWL from Japan. James Johnson, nice to have you on board from Florida. Briar Smoke, nice to have you here from California. KW6 JFD. Joe Pecky, nice to have you here, Joe. From Newmarket, Virginia. Artist Alley Crafter's Kitchen from Massachusetts, having a blast with the Sony ICF 6700W while conditions continue to improve. Pretty cool. Have fun. That's the fun part of radio. William Helms, nice to have you here. And yes, happy Thanksgiving to all my U.S. fans out there and friends. I know you guys are, this is a big thing for you guys. Enjoy. Stay safe. You know, whatever you do it safely, please. Jerry DX, nice to have you here. SoCal, nice to have you here from San Diego. Steve in Australia, nice to have you on board, my friend. WF7I Homebrew, and says happy Thanksgiving from the mountains of Virginia. Nice to have you here. Rufus Newt from Laurentian Valley, Ontario. Here we had snow today, quite, about 5 inches of it. It really looks like winter, and it was kind of cold, and with the snow and everything, it's like I continued making sure that my Christmas decorations are up and running. Matt Broussard, nice to have you here from Lafayette, Louisiana. Hi, Brawler. Nice to have you here from Arkansas. David Harmon. Nice to have you here. First time shortwave radio user. Cool. And you're at the right place. James Johnson. Nice to have you here. Old Radio Man. Well, that's fixed. It's not backwards anymore. From Northeast Tennessee. Joe Tyson. Nice to have you on board from North Carolina. William Helms, who does VHF, UHF as well as shortwave? 2 meters, 10 meters, 7 meters, unbelievable right now. So cool. Well, you probably have some local. One of the things that happens very often in the 2 meters, 70 centimeters is temperature inversions. If you have a front that went through, cold front, warm front, and so on, there's so many things that can make this propagation on the VHF, UHF range so amazing. WF7I Homebrew is drinking a mini margarita cocktail, Ethenberg chocolate bottle tonight from one of those Christmas gift boxes. Cool. Enjoy. Eric Cottrell, nice to have you here. Bonjour, hi. From North Boston. No snow over there. David Harmon is the first time listening, so nice to have you here. Terry Scher, nice to have you here from Ohio. Pale Rider, nice to have you here from Florida. William S, nice to have you here, William, from Summit Hill, Pennsylvania. Mad Radio DXer, nice to have you on board from the UK. Pretty cool to have you here. And this late night, early morning almost, late night listening. Robert Prosper, is there a definitive list of those nations that broadcast to North America in English? If you go to the World of Radio, let me just fetch it here quickly. World of Radio. Let me check it out. World of Radio. Let me just check it out here. To North America directly, there used to be one, but there's I don't know of any specific list for North America. And the reason why, and I'll be very fair here, Robert, also, and why it's not that important is that first of all, a list that has English broadcasts to North America is going to be pretty small. Okay. It's going to be a very small list. And it doesn't matter because there's so many stations that broadcast to Europe or Africa that are received quite well here that you don't want to have a list that's so small because there's a lot that you can still listen to, honestly. Robert Prosper, internet social networking. Yeah, but it's not just that. We often blame the internet on everything. And I don't think we should. I think we should blame things on a different way, of a different scale. Because, think about it. The next generation of devices is not done by somebody that just loves being on social media or the internet. Smartphones of today were designed and built by somebody that was tweaking and building kits. Remember that. That doesn't change. It hasn't changed ever. People that design the smartphones of today really, really loved building kits, building electronic stuff, loved electronics, love the basics of all of that. Because you're not going to be an engineer that's going to build a smartphone if you haven't gone through all of that first phase of being amazed at electronics itself. And that's still going to be the same in 20 years and 30 years from now. Who's going to build that robot? Who's going to build that, super duper whatever device that we're going to use in the future that we don't even know about yet? People that love electronics and love computers and love at the basic core of everything. And one of the very interesting aspects of what we do today is, when I was young, when you did something unusual, there were quite a few people that were amazed and would go down and look at what you're doing. An example of that is when I started doing model rocketry in the early 90s. There were always quite a few kids and parents that would ask questions and come over and watch and see what are you doing? And were amazed. Last time I did that, I was with a few friends, my brother, my nephew. And one of the things we asked ourselves is, have you noticed that we're sending rockets and absolutely no one is even coming over and seem to be amazed and asks question? And that is something that is, I think, is a big problem today. Lack of interest in the basics of why things are happening. Why is a rocket working and sending people to the International Space Station? Why is a radio working? It's not by magic. Somebody somewhere has to know what he's doing. And what's sad is I see a lot of those places with not just radio, computer stuff, smartphones, and there's a lot of old guys maintaining and making sure things work that one day will retire from those jobs. And we need to have a replacement at the base. And that replacement doesn't seem to be as important as it should be. A friend of mine sent his children to school and pushed them into work that doesn't require any manual labor. And I remember telling that friend why you did that. And he said, well, I don't want them to work in hard environments and, have their hands dirty and so on. And I said, one of the things that you should know is that, first of all, the basic knowledge, plumbers, electricians, there's a need for those, and there's not enough of them. And I said, those guys are going to be paid more than someone that comes out of the university that you don't want to have your hands dirty on. Because that is something we always will need. But not just that. I was kind of telling him, stop thinking you have to send your kids to university for them to have a great life. There's a lot of things, and there's people that have really high salaries in more basic stuff that still needs knowledge. And you're not an electrician, you're not a born electrician, you got to learn it. You're not a born plumber, you got to learn it. But these are still in demand today, will be in demand in 50 years and 100 years, and they make really high salaries compared to a lot of kids that come out of university because they think that's the only thing. No, there's a lot more to the world than just having a university degree. And what I mean by that is, if you go to university, please do, because it's important to get education. And the higher you go, the better off you'll be in life. That is for sure. But that's the thing, is don't forget on the way that there's that electrician and that plumber and a lot more, that car mechanic. Your car is not going to work forever. Somebody's got to know how it works to fix it. And unfortunately, there seems to be kind of a poo-poo of the more basic work. I'm trying to find a word here. Those, how things work and the basics of everything, and working with your hands and doing stuff. Some people will like to work with their hands. Why not? I've never been a guy that's been scared of getting my hands dirty. It's interesting. There's so much in there. By the way, I am 27 minutes behind in the chat room, so hang in there if you haven't heard your name or haven't said hello yet. VE2FJG, nice to have you here. GJ, sorry, VE2FGJ. Nice to have you here on board. James Johnson, nice to have you here. What else do we have? Robert Prosper says there are still some hacker types who are in the do it yourself, but not many who want to homebrew anything. Yep. Jean-Marc Letz, bonjour et bienvenue de Strasbourg, en France. Always a pleasure. We have Of the Dawn. Nice to have you here. We have, yes, the Christmas lights are up. Absolutely. Leo Main, nice to have you here. From Florida, and also known as Maglone. John Doe, nice to have you here. Michael Satterfield from South Carolina. Kevin, nice to have you here from New Jersey. Rob likes the Christmas lights. Rennie Arcobaleno, nice to have you here from Italy, Rennie. Cool. Yogime, nice to have you on board. And drinking beer and petting a cat in front of an audience. Yep. That's about it, eh? Canadian Radio TV guy, nice to have you on board. Nissan Greenwich, nice to have you here from Dublin, Ireland. Jay Watterson 69, nice to have you here. Miki Delmage, nice to have you on board with Radio Thailand 13750. Eric Cottrell, are we going to hunt for pirates? I'm going to check. Let's talking of pirates, let's check out the Let's check out the HF Underground. Anything on the HF Underground right now as we speak? HF Underground. What's on the HF Underground right now? Let's check it out. So at this time, there doesn't seem to be. There's been a quieting down of pirates a little bit in the past. I'd say in the past month or so in the weekly pirates. I mean, all summer and since COVID, kind of the COVID breakthrough in March, there had been like pirates almost every day and all the time, and it was like I've never seen. If 2020 has to go into one positive aspect of our listening hobby is the amount of pirates that were actually received on the shortwave bands. I've never seen so many pirates, and that's interesting. And it's kind of quieting down a little bit. But hey, it's Thanksgiving, so there should be quite a lot of pirates and the next few days. So that's for sure. So we're going to check that out as time permits, Eric Cottrell. Estrella Garcia, nice to have you here, my friend. Chas Tank, you're so right. So much noise now compared to 1988 when I began. Also, I learned how to DX on my own and how to tune. Yeah, and that's a big problem because it's creating put yourself as a newcomer to the hobby today. I sometimes think about it. What if I saw this box that said, "Hey, World Band Radio," and turned it on in 2020 here where I live? No external antennas, not really knowing what I'm doing, just like in 1982 with my Realistic DX100. Would I have stayed hooked to the hobby? What made me stay hooked to the hobby in 1982 was I turned it on, I tuned the frequency band, and I caught Israel and Radio Berlin and, Radio Moscow and Radio Canada and, Radio Sweden. And it's like you're in one evening and there's like an information overload. There's so many things to listen to that it's like a rush of adrenaline. It's like, wow, okay, well, I got to sit down here because there's too much to listen to. If I take the same radio today and tune around now in my home here, I might be in the same mode as a lot of comments I get from people saying, well, there's nothing. Because part of it is I don't understand that the noise around me is blocking a lot of the signals. How many times in the chat room, how many times on the comments did I see, wow, we had a power outage that lasted 2 hours. I was amazed at the amount of signals I was getting. Yeah, that's the problem. Is absolutely. There were tons of things out there. You saw there were tons of things out there. But you also saw that when the power comes back, the noise level comes back, it's all washed out. It's not there to listen to anymore. I was talking about how I get kind of down when I go to Perry Island, listen to those signals, or any park anyways, listen to those signals that are like super powerful, come back home and it's like, yeah, I don't hear nothing compared to what I was hearing there. And I don't even need a big antenna. I'm here with my loops and stuff, and it's like, wow. I go to Perry Island, I have 20 feet of wire, and it's like, I'm hearing the world. I get here with my loops and my stuff, and it's like, yeah, I'm hearing half the world, a quarter of the world. It's funny and not funny at the same time, because you get back home and you're like, yeah, I wish I had Perry Island reception here, because I would enjoy shortwave even more than I do today. And I do enjoy shortwave quite a lot. I've learned to adapt my listening. And I think that's also a key of listening. I've adapted my listening in order to, with my knowledge, I adapted my listening in order to receive as many stations as I can still. But boy, yeah, I understand that somebody that hasn't turned on their shortwave radio in 30 years might be kind of shocked. It's a complex world, unfortunately, for our hobby. James Johnson says, AM USA, their sports or religion, not even much news. Yeah. Hey, Rob in Connecticut, blind picker, W0RAB. Nice to have you on board. A happy Thanksgiving to you too, my friend. Nice to have you here almost every show, pretty much every show. Pagemaster, KC5VOY. Nice to have you here, WA51036 SWL. From Oklahoma. Meow to Mr. Paul. Kamaxi76, nice to have you here. Picking up 13750 very faintly, but definitely picking it up in Michigan. James Johnson, FCC regulations, biggest problem that cater to big telecoms. One of the biggest problems also is the fact that we have let in a lot of devices that were much more, much noisier than used to be before. If we had kept strict regulation on noise, like in the 70s or 80s, of course, we would pay our electronics and our stuff a higher price than today. But maybe maybe our hobby would still be a nice hobby to be with, SoCal SolarFlex 104. Yep, SolarFlex reached and is above 100 for the first time in quite a long time. So listen to the high frequencies, because there could be a lot of stuff to listen to, even 10 meters. Mark Schmidt, nice to have you here from Maine. Jay Watterson 69 says, not to mention all the female park rangers police that take advantage of innocent. Yeah. Oh, man, that was an experience. It happened only once, though. It happened only once. But it's so funny because, like, this summer I didn't see any cops. So this summer I went, twice to Perry Island? I didn't see any cops. It was kind of interesting. But when police come over, of course, the guy with his wires in the trees and his radios, what do you think the cops do? They kind of take a peek at what are you doing? It's for sure. Leo Main says the Christian FM radio stations break the law. They bleed all over and wipe other stations that national stations called. Joy does it all over. That's why a lot of pirates on FM band are getting arrested and get fines in the U.S. Actually, Joe Rodman, nice to have you here. Happy Thanksgiving. Catalin, nice to have you on board from Germany. Let me just get back to where I was. Here we go. So nice to have you on board. John McClure, nice to have you here. How late am I? 50 minutes. Well, at my count, but you were only 25 minutes late when you actually signed in. That's not too bad. Carlos Aguila, nice to have you here. The key to reception in a noisy RF environment is a little wire, at least 6 to 25 meters long. Yeah, it depends, because it's one's very, very, complex thing, because if your environment is not too bad, that could be a miracle antenna. I always say one thing. when somebody says, well, I'm going to buy an antenna, whatever price it is, start by putting a piece of wire outside. Okay. That is the basics. If it's quiet where you live, 30 feet, 40 feet of wire is going to do magic. You're going to be happy. It's going to get whatever you want. If it's quiet. If it's not, then that's where, okay, well, maybe an MLA 30 or something that you have to buy, but you can build it yourself. But a wire is your best friend to start with, the least expensive of all. And, I tell everybody here on the channel about one thing very, very simple. Because when people say, well, you talk about this and don't talk about that, and you don't. This channel, I want to bring someone to the hobby at a price they can afford. I don't want to say, well, buy this $2,000 radio, buy this $1,000 antenna, and you're going to get the world. Yeah, that's not this channel. If everything was like that, we wouldn't have a lot of people watching here. Okay, there's the nuts that we are that purchased $2,000 radios. I'm part of those. But in effect, most of the people that are going to watch are going to want to try or start. They're going to start with something that is not too expensive. And my main goal here is to bring you into the hobby with something that might not be too expensive, that you'll be able to buy, but that you'll be able to listen to something also that's interesting. Jay Watterson, you're not crazy, you're eccentric. I like that. I'm an eccentric kind of guy, so I'm not crazy. That's cool. At least I know that. I'm eccentric. All right, JDA Dakota. Nice to have you here from sorry guys. WA0113 SWL, shortwave call sign. David, KJ4CMY, nice to have you on board listening to some QSOs on 6 meters. Oh, wow, this is so cool. This is so cool. Yeah, let's hope for that vaccine and things come back to normal in 2021, because I think we're all fed up and we're all going nuts about all of this. Pale Rider, for me, I am still fascinated with some place across the world has a box that transmits a radio wave, and I have a box that receives the radio wave. That's why I got into ham radio and enjoy shortwave as well. Yeah, that's interesting, because let's also focus on that. So I think most of the people here, I think we're all there. We're all fascinated by that. Fascinated by the fact that a signal that's really far away gets to my radio. But imagine somebody that gets into shortwave saying, hey, I'm going to listen to the world, doesn't receive anything or much, or it does, but isn't that fascinated by that fact. And that's another side of the hobby. In the 80s, you had people that weren't impressed by I'm receiving the world. They were impressed by the diversity of programming. So a part of the people in the hobby in the 70s, 60s, 80s, they were not necessarily radio guys. They were more content guys or content girls. I'm getting the news from that country. I'm getting the news from all over the world. This is what I want. There was maybe not for everybody an amazement of I'm I'm punching the microphone. There is not necessarily that much for some people of a wow, I'm receiving the world. It was more wow, I'm receiving all of that content. And I think that's one part of the listening hobby as we grew up and as we went from the 70s and in 60s, 50s, 70s, 80s, with a lot of stuff to listen to. And there was the guys like us that are eccentric and that are just like, wow, I'm receiving a signal from Quito, Ecuador. This is so cool. When I started the hobby, what amazed me first was not the content. What amazed me first is, wow, I'm listening to Israel in English from Israel, because back then, in 1982, relays were not that common. There was a couple of relays. There was a few relays. There was Radio Netherlands from Bonaire. There was, and even that, even listening from here to Bonaire and the Netherlands Antilles in the Caribbean was kind of amazing. There was, Radio Japan had a few relays from like, Gabon in Africa, which was still pretty amazing. Voice of Free China, which is today Radio Taiwan, but back then was called Voice of Free China, was kind of one of the first to use the WRMI transmitters. Voice of Free China was, I believe, in 1980s, the only relay of an international broadcaster from Okeechobee, Florida. It's as if these guys there thought, if we want to get into North America, that is where we should transmit from. And I remember that, they were like on 5950 and a couple of other frequencies. But they were all the frequencies I heard from what was Radio Taiwan, but was called Voice of Free China back then, was relayed from Okeechobee, Florida. This was like the first international relay of a station from Okeechobee. I don't think they had any others. Maybe they could, but I don't know of. But they were the first from Okeechobee. Then we had, of course, there's most stations, remove Voice of Free China. Most stations and remove Radio Japan that was using the Gabon transmitter site from Africa #1, I believe. Let's think about it for a few seconds. BBC was on North America, was from Antigua. That was their own transmitter site. It's like Ascension Islands. That's a BBC transmitter site from somewhere else than in the UK. Radio Netherlands, the Bonaire facility was their own facility in Bonaire in the Netherlands Antilles, built by Radio Netherlands to broadcast to the Americas in a much better way. And so there was not a lot of stations kind of using a relay from somebody else. It was not something that would really do much back in the 80s. Most stations broadcast from their own country, which made it difficult for some stations to listen to. I remember, people complain about China radio being like, China's everywhere. Yeah, but, in the 80s, Radio Beijing was a tough one. It was always from Beijing, China. So it was a tough one to get here. It was not that easy to get Radio Beijing. So, it's interesting. It's really interesting. It is totally amazing still, Pale Rider. Absolutely. For me, it is. Daniel White, nice to have you here from Louisiana. And KBVKB. So you probably had a number in there. KB something, VKB. Man. David was out in short sleeve shirt in central Georgia. Wow. Here it's kind of cold. Yes, that's the thing, Catalin. You got it. We're infected with an RF virus. Please do not bring a vaccine. We don't want one. Hey, Kimberly, nice to have you on board from California. Happy Thanksgiving. Paul Steckler, nice to have you here from almost sunny California. Carlos Aguila says, greetings, 27 degrees Celsius, 80 Fahrenheit in central Mexico. Wow. Perfect weather to go out with a radio. Rodolfo 65, nice to have you here from New York City. Brian Penny, nice to have you here from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Robert Prosper, which nations broadcast in English programs that can be received in the Eastern U.S.? So in the Eastern U.S., okay, let's back off here. Okay, if you're not too noisy where you are and you're listening, here's what I easily receive, and I'm going to focus on the English because I got to be careful because a lot of the transmissions I'll listen to in French also. So okay, what would I listen to in a 24-hour day? So early morning, Eastern U.S., okay? And I'm going to talk local time, Eastern U.S., not UT. Early morning, Eastern U.S., you're going to get a Radio New Zealand on one of those 49-meter frequencies down. So early morning, just at sunrise. So what are the broadcasts in English? Romania. That's quite an easy one, several times a day. Late afternoon and evening. Voice of Turkey is another one. Radio Havana, Cuba is another one. There's BBC on the eastern side of North America, can often be heard quite easily. 11810, 12095, 15400. These are several frequencies, you'll hear them. BBC from most of the transmissions you'll hear well are from Ascension Islands. Lots of relays from WRMI in the Eastern U.S. So Radio Prague, Radio Slovakia, Voice of the Report of the Week. What else do we have? I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming out of WRMI that's kind of interesting. Some DX shows and so on. I'm missing out on some because I'm trying to kind of figure out with my just my memory right now. But there's so let me just think. So there's a couple of Radio Japan relays that are easily heard. If you are a late nighter, Radio Japan English has a couple of hearings that are pretty good around midnight Eastern time. Midnight 30 on the 49-meter band, relayed from Europe. China Radio from Cuba, Radio Havana, Cuba. Also is another one that you can listen to when their audio is not crappy in English. You will have, let's check it out. What else do we have? Let me just think about it. There's I have to remove the French language ones that I listen to, which adds to me some listening compared to English. Voice of America, quite a few frequencies that are coming in quite well to North America. 17895 in like around noon local time. There's that 11720 or at 2200 UT. And of course there's a lot of stuff. There's pirate radio stations and so many stuff that are kind of interesting in there. And I'm sure I'm missing out on some stations here while I'm talking. Radio New Zealand, like I said, in the morning, in the summertime, like in the evening, also we can get it. Man, trying to think here if I get anything else. Hodges Autographer's Kitchen, Radio Thailand. Yeah, Radio Thailand's more a tough one because it's direct from Thailand. It's not always easy. But Radio Thailand has English broadcast. North Korea's broadcast, Radio Korea from North Korea. I haven't heard them very well. They also broadcast to North Korea, to North America quite regularly, for sure. KBS World Radio from South Korea in the morning, but unfortunately they don't understand it. 15575 is not the best frequency all the time. Tom DXer, WPE2QED. Nice to have you here from the Hudson Valley, New York. Um, yeah, Butterbean. I think that resumes well exactly what it's all about. Money and greed killed shortwave. The web just helped it. That I would say is a fair look at how why shortwave is what's happening. Anybody, like I always say, anybody that says when the internet killed shortwave, I have no idea what you're talking about. Shortwave already was dying before that. John Doe, Sangean ATS 909X2 just looks like an ATS 909. And why do they still use that screen? My Radio Shack 398 had that screen. Well, first of all, the screen is bigger. It's a same looking screen, but it's not the same screen. That's the first thing you need to know. Okay, it's not the same screen. So it's bigger than on your Radio Shack 3 DX398, which is the original 909. It has airband, which was not on the original ATS of any kind. Even the 909X does not have airband. It tunes to 10 hertz. That's an improvement. That is definitely an improvement for the radio. Performance is where it's going to all be about because it's kind of expensive. And, I just posted a video of the 909X. If you have to buy a 909X or a Texan PL990X, get the Texan. You get a much better radio for the price than you get with the Sangean. Don't look at just the visual look of how the Sangean is a beautiful radio. It is beautiful in design. But the 909X from Texan is a much better radio in many ways. The 909X2 needs to be a damn good radio, honestly. Kathleen says, I just found out today that if you become licensed ham, you're not allowed to transmit on CB band with a ham transceiver. You can only use a CB radio. Perhaps the output power should not exceed. Yeah, I think it has to do with the output power, honestly, Kathleen. It's really an output power thing. Really output power. Yep, Arecibo is going to be demolished because the damage to the antenna is too big, and apparently it's would cost a lot of money to fix and bring back. Heather Cottrell, also when Radio Australia cut back their North American service on 9580 years ago to just Pacific, I could still receive it in East Coast as before. Yeah, it was different because what was sad when they did that, and that's also a big problem with international broadcasters, not understanding what international broadcasting is all about. Radio Canada did that mistake too. Let's move from Radio Canada international made programs to the world to local CBC stuff. And it's like, no, that's not what shortwave is all about. That's I don't know, people that think about that just want to save money, and that's all. Graham Tablin, I say, have you here, Graham from Milton, Ontario. No, Butterbean, I understand what he says. What he says is with a ham radio gear. And I believe that could be true because of the limits of power of the CB band. He's not saying you can't transmit on CB. You can't transmit on CB with a ham radio gear because it's not been approved for that band. That I would tend to think it's probably possible. What else do we have? Robert Prosper, interest in rocketry is being supplanted by people playing with radio-controlled drones. No, it's different. I don't think it been it shifted to that. I think radio control drones is another aspect of hobbyists of doing something kind of cool. 45 units. Nice to have you on board. Thanksgiving is in the US. Here in Canada was last month, but it's okay. I miss Radio Shack and 101 electronics project kit and chemistry sets. I had a really nice physics sets when I was young. My brother, my brother worked in a warehouse that was owned by a hobby shop. So in there, they had amazing stuff. And I think I was maybe, I say I was 12 or 13 years old. And I got a 301 physics experiments kit that had so much stuff that it was amazing. And I remember making the experiments and being amazed at every little detail of why this does that and why that gas expands. And that's also something that is very peculiar to our curiosity. Understanding why you're all excited because you understand that gas expands when it's hot. I remember we had when I was home from we had a teacher strike, and I was so if I remember well, I was 11 years old. Was the longest teacher strike we ever had. It lasted like almost a month. For a month, I was at home. Of course, I was the kid that was happy to be at home for a month. It was like, yeah, please stay and strike. I'm happy. I'm at home. But we have a local channel here, a TV channel called Télé Québec, or it was called Radio Quebec back then. It was a TV channel that had educational purpose most of the time. In the afternoon, they had kids' educational programs. I would watch every afternoon during that strike, and I still remember there was a science moment where there was like this 30-minute, an old film of 1955 or 1960 or whatever. They weren't even like, brand new. They were old science things. And I remember there was like this bit where there's this little kid that comes and he left a balloon. He left his like his basketball or I don't know what on top of the car, and it was deflated. And he comes back and he's wondering why his balloon in mid-afternoon 90 degrees is slightly inflated. And I remember his dad comes through. The perfect setting of those things of the dad that dad that knows it all comes and says, "Well, son, it's partly inflated because of expansion." And it's like, yeah, okay. But I would be a sucker for that type of program. I would be the kid sitting down and it's like, oh man, give me more of those. I love it. And they were basic stuff, but it was real cool. The basic stuff that was really, really a lot of fun. And I would watch that. And, think about it. How many around you would watch that type of thing and be fascinated? Most people are like, yeah, okay, well, oh, that's cute. That also, I think, is very unique and why we are fascinated and why we have our passion for our hobbies, the understanding beneath the workings of all of it. John McNearney, nice to have you here from Western Pennsylvania. What else do we have? Let's go down. David, when your plover arrives at your house in a chauffeur-driven limousine, you know you're in trouble. Yep. It's like your tech guy comes in your home with his BMW. Yeah, I saw you arriving in a Porsche. Yeah, I'm the tech guy. You're in trouble. The plumber's crack. You know. What else do we have? Ray Carlisi, nice to have you here. Says very true. My son is a new elevator construction and is doing great. Yep. We gotta be careful with that. Curtis Allecrafter's Kitchen says he's got a 301 Radio Shack electronics kit. Oh man, I had so much fun with those when I was young. Matt465. I'm not on any frequency, and I'm in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. What else do we have? William Helms, not to mention the history, social studies, geography, considered not PC nowadays. Yep, there's so much out there. And the knowledge that is, how to prosper. Other hobbies from my youth that are now, it seems, very obscure. Astronomy, grinding your own telescope mirror, microscopy. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. I get back as a little kid when I go to downtown. There's a store downtown that has, and honestly, I'm resisting the temptation to not buy them. That store has a whole alley of things like 75 experiments to do in your home. Then you look at the next box and it's like learn the world of crystals or whatever, and you look at the other one and it's like learn why gas expands or whatever, and it's like 50 experiments, and solar energy 25 experiments, and it's like I just want to buy them all, and it's like, hey, I'm gonna have fun with that. And the kid in me just comes back when I see that. Eric Cottrell, they're all pirated out. Yeah. Let's just hope they didn't have all COVID and died. But they're all pirated out, probably. Matt, depends where you are. Out west, there are no more pirates than before because most of them seem to be. It definitely seems that the eastern part of North America has a very high concentration of pirates. And I would add to that part of the reason that happens, I think that, there's like, if you listen to 15 pirates in one evening, I suspect that came from like only 2 or 3 different transmitters, not 15 different transmitters. I think a lot of the transmitters are used for several different pirates where the shows are sent in to be broadcast. So, Justin says, you're right. I worked in the cloud for a while. One day phone books got dropped off. The employees laughed and threw them away, said no need for those. 3 days later, a major accident, cut off phones. And yeah, it's crazy. There's so much we got to be careful of. Ronald Zucala, nice to have you here from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Question, where did you get your Texan PL330? How long did it take to receive it? Purchased it from an eBay seller in China. I think it was in trying to remember where in China, but anyways, one of the Chinese eBay sellers, and it took about I'd say roughly 2 weeks to get here. Actually, it would have arrived earlier. When he sent it, it was returned to him because it contained a lithium-ion battery. And so I told him, I said, look, the shipper seems to have returned the radio to you. And he said, look, I'm going to send it to you in another shipping. He was really good at it. He sent me with another shipper that would actually accept the battery. And from that time to receiving it, a week, maybe 1 week maximum. The delays on the shipping in China and on eBay has seemed to really got it back down to roughly the norm. A lot of people saying, well, I'm not buying on eBay or from China. The delays are crazy. No, they were crazy 3 months ago. They seem to be back to normal pretty much now. I can tell you that. James Dawson, yes, but I do miss using the knob to tune what it makes it seem more exciting. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. What else do we have? All right, JD Dakota loves power outages. I think everybody loves when you listen to the radio, I can tell you that. Kathleen, is there a higher hill around my area? Could you do a video with the surroundings? Yeah, there is a so to do a video of the area I would have to go to we have a mountain in the middle of the city of Montreal called Mont Royal or Mount Royal that surrounds the city with an observation point. I haven't been there in a long time. It's not a place I would bring a shortwave radio for a simple reason. It's where all the transmitting towers for the most FM and TV stations in Montreal are. So it probably would not perform very well. But I should go there. It's been a long time. I think it'd be nice to be there for sure. Oh man. Chastang still using a DX390 from 1991. Cool. Carlos Aguila says, always been a radiophile, but for some reason those signals were more abundant and clearer in the 80s, 90s. I never got signals from such faraway places like today with the XH data. It's I think it's a mix of all sorts of things. It's a mix of where what frequencies we tuned in and so on. I had a lot more signals in the 90s and the 80s, but I don't know. I think it's the way we do our hobby. Maybe we don't always do it the right way, I guess. Eric Cottrell, where is Paul this evening? He's sleeping. Actually, I have my bathrobe in I did some I cleaned the clothes. I put the clothes in the washer and dryer, and I dumped it on the bed because I had to do the live show. And I noticed there was a bump with the bathrobe that I use. And the bump is, of course, Paul the cat that decided to go under the bathrobe that I use. What else do we have? I'm going to try to catch up, guys. I'm really far behind. Don't worry. I will see you at some point. Okay. What else do we have? Yeah, slide rules. What else do we have? Let me just check it out, guys. Joseph Hickenbaum, nice to have you here, Joseph, from California, USA. Artist Crafter's Kitchen. What are the chances of their monolith fund in Utah? If I had a lot of money, like millions of dollars, I would drop all sorts of weird shapes everywhere so that people talk about it. And I'd be just laughing my head off. We found a sphere, perfect metal sphere in the Sahara Desert. Are the aliens responsible for it? And I would just sit down in front of the news channel like, yeah, they found my sphere. I'd be the kind of guy laughing my head off. Oh God. I remember, you're talking RGD Dakota about electronic calculators. There was so when I went to college in applied sciences, and I needed a scientific calculator. In 1987, a scientific calculator, and it was a solar powered scientific calculator, cost $100, $100. I went to the dollar store. You guys are not going to believe it. The dollar store. And here the dollar store has up to items up to $4. Okay. At $4 was a scientific calculator that did pretty much everything that my $100 Texas Instrument calculator did back in 1987. And I was like, man, $4 to do the same darn thing that $100 calculator did then. And worst part, true story, when I went to college, there was one part of the so I people had told me, don't use the lockers. A lot of people get their stuff stolen. And I was like, I got a good lock and everything. So, it's going to be okay. My locker was in so there was like a path, and it was like in a corner where nobody ever sees and nobody ever goes. And so I'm at college, maybe 3 weeks. I go to my locker, and my locker has been open. And what did they actually steal? Only one thing: my $100 calculator. And I was like, oh, bummer. Gotta buy a new one for $100. Then I never used the lockers again. Never, never, never. But it was like, today it was like, it's a $4. It's a $4 calculator. They wouldn't even bother to actually steal it, Hey, days when calculators were something that was expensive. VE3KRP, nice to have you here, Fast Eddie, from Ontario. Jason Stahl, nice to have you here, Jason. Pretty cool. What else do we have? Hold Radio Man, doing. What else do we have? I'm trying not to miss anyone. Hey, Laura Robertson from Georgia. Nice to have you here. James Glencross, nice to have you here from the UK. Mike WDX50, nice to have you here from Arkansas. What else do we have? Yogi Bean says one of the artist stations to receive Voice of Mongolia. Strange accents is so precious. I haven't heard Mongolia in a long time. I think the QSL card I've got here from Voice of Mongolia is from the last time I actually heard Voice of Mongolia. So pretty crazy. RJ Dakota, 1990s, Radio Australia. Yeah, of course. Hey, I remember. Propagation was amazing back in the 80s. That probably helped. When I started in 1982, we were on the downside of the solar cycle, but solar cycle was still very strong. When I received Radio Australia for the first time ever in my life, about 2 or 3 weeks after I got my DX 100, it was on 21740. And one of the reasons it was easy to pick up was that it was the only station on the 13-meter band, and it was late at night. It was like a summer, it was like late August in the summer, and it was, I would say it was like 10 or 11 p.m. local. So Summertime was like 02 or 300 hours UTC. And it was coming in real clear, not super strong, but with the low noise and the fact that we're in a 13-meter band where propagation is a little more stable on the higher frequencies, often less, like slower deep fading very often. It was coming in real clear. And I still remember listening to something in English. Because remember, back then, the internet does not exist. I have no idea what I'm listening to. I'm on a DX100 that is so everywhere that you don't even know what precise frequency you are listening to, anyways. So you had to listen in. And I listened to that show. I can tell you, I listened to that at least 45 minutes before I heard, and I think it was like the top of the hour, this is Radio Australia. And I remember I got up. I was jumping up and down in my living room, looking like a crazy nut teenager. And I was like, Australia, this is so cool. The other side of the earth. I'm receiving the other side of the earth on my radio. This is amazing. And that pretty much was, was crazy. Prasad, welcome. Nice to have you here from India. Hope everything's all right over there. Here it's a little complicated, but things are not too bad. Randy, nice to have you here from Riverside, California. Paul Steckler, new Sanjian at $459 US. That is way too expensive. When it actually comes out and I can order one, I will ask for donations if you guys want to help me purchase one and test it and talk about it. But boy, that is very expensive. When I look at that radio Sanjian, I think a lot of you have been asking me to test the Russian version of that SDR portable. At that price, I would be more inclined to buy the SDR portable from Russia than the Sanjian receiver. I don't care how it comes out. I do not believe with any major changes that the Sanjian ATS 909X2 is worth that price at all. At all. Look, the original I was looking today at the Sanjian ATS 909X. I see it here on Amazon Canada. And I mean, that thing is as expensive as the Texan, even more than the Texan PL990X that I got. I would buy a Texan anytime. I don't care about the Sanjian. I would buy the Texan. I would not want to have anything to do with the Sanjian. It's not worth it. It's not worth its price. It's 40 hertz tuning on SSB. I'm telling you, with music, that's a big problem. And even with voice, it's sometimes annoying to hear, if I want to listen to Donald Duck, I'll look at cartoons on TV, The other thing is, it's off frequency. Why does a $250 radio, or if not more, why is it off frequency and you can't even fix that? It's deaf on telescopic. It is. I am sorry, but unless it's a major breakthrough, it's not worth $459 for the X2, that's for sure. Because the one that we have now, the 909X, is not even worth its price. I'm sorry, but it's not. Not when you compare it to what we can have, lower priced, that is more precise, has several bandwidths to choose from, that tunes at least correctly on single sideband because you can actually fine tune it. Even look, an XH Data D808 fine tunes to the perfect pitch. Sanjian 909X is not worth its price. It's beautiful. That I will say, it is beautiful. The looks amazing, but it's not worth its price. Like the X2, if it's not a major breakthrough, it's not worth its price either. I think that thing about 11 meters and all of that is more of if you interfere with something, you'll know. But apart from that, you know. Dr. Sisop, nice to have you here. Radio Van in Cuba will be jammed within a month. Now is hardly audio on 6,000 kilohertz. Yeah, they have so much problem. Mr. Love, I penguin. So I got a CB radio. Can I hook to a battery to it to get powered? Yes, of course. Brett Britton. Love the videos from Oregon. Just got my first shortwave radio. Texan PL 880. Amazing receiver. Have fun. Have fun. Kevin says CB no more than 3 watts. Most ham radios are 100 watts. Yeah. I think it's the scare of using too much power on the CB band, like pretty much everybody's doing anyways. Chastain, can you even buy chemistry set now? Yeah, you can, but you know what? Because of how should I actually phrase this without offending anyone? Because our generations today are too delicate. We'll say it like that, too delicate and could be hurt easily. It's not what it used to be before. I mean, it's okay. When I had my physics set, I mean, I had a alcohol burner with a flame with everything. It said, like 10 years or older, and yeah, you want to have a 10-year-old playing with fire. I get the drift that, yeah, it could have been dangerous. But at the same time, I think we've gone way too far on the other side of, yeah, well, you can't play with a balloon because it can actually explode and hurt you. Look, come on, let's go somewhere in the middle, okay? You're not gonna die because your balloon exploded in your face. You'll have a scare, you'll have a little mark, you'll be happy. 2 days later, I don't know. Oh, my tree isn't in this room; it's in the living room. What you see here is the window lights, Kevin. My Christmas tree is in the living room. The FCC, like every other agency, will do something if you do a lot of interference. But unless somebody complains, that's why there's a lot of pirates on shortwave, and they don't really get caught today, unless they interfere with something important. They don't really care much. International Space Station is on VHF, not on shortwave. What else do we have? What else do we have? James Johnson's got a CB in his truck. Never anybody out there very early. What I hear here is mostly, I would say 80% of CB traffic today is mobile trucks, truckers. And there's a little bit of, like I say regularly, there's a bunch of guys on channel 16, single sideband, that talk about stuff. But it is not like it like it was before in the 80s, and that's for sure. Michael Langer, nice to have you here. Nicholas Ayer, nice to have you here. Nick K9XN from Northwest Indiana. Dave Quick, nice to have you on board. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys in the US. John Doe, what is wrong with Alan Wheeler worldwide? They go all out. Yeah, no, he's going crazy. I've kind of stopped listening to the guy. Totally, because I can tell you, crazy. What else do we have? What else do we have? Let's check it out here. A Casio calculator watch. Oh, man. Casio calculator watch. That is... I remember I had one of the first, and they were expensive back then. One of the first LCD watches. My dad had purchased that. It was like something incredible back in the early 80s. And I still remember it was the first time I wore a watch. So what does happen when you wear a watch for the first time in your life? You totally forget you're wearing that. And I went to the swimming pool, forgot to take it off, and the watch was dead, unfortunately. Should have put a bag of dog poop in the locker. Yeah. Hey, Shelly, nice to have you here from Pennsylvania. Nice to have you here. John Doe, Canadians can visit USA. They have to fly. Yeah, I know. They in the US, you guys don't really care if we go there. Actually, there was an article this week of because a lot of Canadians go to Florida for the especially elderly Canadians go to Florida for the winter, sorry, to enjoy warm weather. And they were showing a lot of Canadians, elderly Canadians, that go to the US because apparently it's easy to go there. The other way around is different, though. You guys in the US are not getting it easy to get into Canada. And I'm sorry to say, I love you guys, but, I'm happy it's like that. Matt, Canadians are largely avoiding Florida this year. Yeah. So what they were saying this year is of course, there's still elderly couples that go to Florida, but most of them are saying they're staying here in Canada, honestly. So, PN, what about Radio Tahiti on Saturday nights, the music show? Yeah, I remember Tahiti. I remember waking up in the morning listening to them on, I think it was 7170. Tom, rest in peace, Radio Australia. Yeah, it is sad when you think about it. I don't know if it works. I'm going to try something, guys. It probably will work. Let me just, so this is okay. So let's go here. And see if it works. Will that work? Let's try it. I think it does. So that's the original Radio Australia interval signal from a long time ago. And this is check it out here, Australia. What I miss from Australia is this. So from 1982, From Radio Australia's external service, we have... Sorry, guys. It won't take too long. And we have this. If it ever plays. Radio Australia. Dan V, nice to have you here from Ohio. Tim Rock and Roll Pepper Show. They're Rock and Roll Pepper Show. Nice to have you here. Which band should I find North Korea propaganda? They have several broadcasts in North America on 31 and 40, 31 and 25 meter band, actually. So, what else do we have? The Wind. The Wind 1960. Nice to have you here from Central New York. Chen YC. Unfortunately, many shortwave band stations have been shut down, but there's still a lot of stuff to listen to. Really a lot of stuff to listen to when you start tuning the bands. Wind 1960, you'll be here with the MLA 30 Plus and SDR Player SPDX. Oh, cool. That's a great setup. Really a great setup, honestly. Brett Britton says, loves the PL 880 so far. Just watching your videos to learn some more stuff about shortwave. Cool. Ivan Tsiga, Snowflake. Let's put it as, we got to take care of our children today. What else do we have? There were some things that were kind of careless and we got to take care of, but it's crazy. It's crazy today. Matt, FCC has listening stations across the country. I'm certain that they monitor everything, likely using powerful, sophisticated SDRs, but there's no enforcement without a submitted complaint. Yeah, what I see, and even when we look at, like in the International Radio Report, we talk about FM pirates that are arrested and shut down. And what's the thing is they add complaints. When there's no complaints, there's nothing happening. Pale Rider says, watch the launches from my backyard, National Park at Kennedy Space Center. They're cool to watch. Absolutely. It's always cool. I would love to watch one of those in person. TVDX, bonjour, ça va bien. Et toi, j'espère que ça va bien aussi. Jeff King, nice to have you here. Happy Thanksgiving in the U.S., you guys. What else do we have? Let's go down. Arthur's Only Crafter's Kitchen says, not only is Alan Wiener going crazy when you can hear him, it's going tougher to even hear him with all kinds of technical glitches. Yeah, 9330 was off for a few days. It came back, I think, today. I will still say this. Why waste that amount of money and power on a flat earthers crappy programming on 9330. Really? What is it worked for? That's why I get on the conspiracy side of things and sometimes say, there's something more to those transmitters and the money that where it comes from than we might think. Because I mean, what reason is there to spend so much money on a big high power transmitter, especially for the type of programming they do? Think about it for a second. There's something behind that we don't know of. I tell you guys, one day we might learn. Who knows? Thomas Olson, nice to have you on board. Hector Vasquez. I haven't heard a report of the WMLK station for a while now. Ray Carlisi, after the pandemic finally ends, you should arrange a meetup for us all in Montreal to party. Yes, we should. As many people as you guys can show up, and we have a huge party in Montreal. Absolutely, I'll be happy. Dr. Sisop, I made complaint before I left Georgia as I was down the road from FM Tower at 4 stations and wiped shortwave and airband, and they did nothing. One of the biggest problems with that, Dr. Sisop, is also, there's the transmitter side that could have problems, absolutely. But there's the receiving side that might, if you have a radio that's not decent enough, might be overloaded by, what should I do here? I buy a radio and it's overloaded with the FM transmitters of Montreal. Should I call the CRTC in Canada, say, look, these FM stations are breaking through on my shortwave receiver? Where is the line between, but we should investigate if the transmitter is a problem versus where is the receiving? Plus, I don't think that if you say you're a shortwave radio, they're not that necessarily interested in doing anything about it. Honestly. Joe Cool picked up an R30 for $444. Well, enjoy and have fun with it. Bullfrog 89, nice to have you here. N2VNP. Yeah, you were KD2CXU before in Albany, New York. Nice to have you on board. Nice to have you here. And yep, pretty safe here, pretty good. Everything's going well. So, yeah, sure, Leo Main. Here we go. Moderator. Here you go, Leo. Matt says, I never cared for Alan Wiener's show because he's a hanger and hate the style. You want to discuss topic, then talk to me, not at me. Yeah. I think that's the biggest problem with the guy also is that you get hit on, you get slapped on, you get, punched on, but there's no, here is my opinion of things, this is my opinion, I shove in your face, which is very different. Very different. Pretty crazy. Do you have the tune signal of Voice of Moscow? Yeah, here we go. We'll even have a broadcast of Voice of Moscow. In a few seconds. Listen to the amount of frequencies they were using. This one is amazing. Listen to the amount of frequencies they will be mentioning in this broadcast. It is crazy.
Is the North American service of Radio Moscow broadcasting on 17.70, 15.45, 15.42, 15.14, 12.05, 9.87, 9.76, 9.72, 9.70, 7.32, 7.18, 7.15, 7.11,
Paul Sontag, nice to have you here.
6.11 megahertz.
This is Radio Moscow. Here's the news. First, the headlines. The Political Bureau of the Soviet Communist Party Central Committee has discussed practical issues of the country's home and foreign policy. There were anti-racist actions in South Africa to mark International Day of Struggle Against Racial Discrimination on Thursday. And Israeli troops have carried out new raids on populated centers in southern Lebanon. Those are the headlines. Now here's the news in full. The Political Bureau of the Soviet Communist Party Central Committee has discussed at its regular meeting ways of putting the country's home and foreign policy.
That cannot sound more shortwave than what shortwave sounded back in the 70s or the 80s. Oh, man. What else do we have? Dr. Sisop, yes, the WTWW has a lot of music in the evening. You can actually go to WTWW.us and have your own requests. For those that didn't know, you just go on WTWW.us and there's a request page where you can actually ask for your favorite songs to be played. So they give you a list and you choose the song you want to hear. I've done that a few times. I always show up as official SWL channel on YouTube. And people just get a big laugh at it because they're like, "Oh, you ask for your favorite songs and kind of publicize your YouTube channel with it." You know, Matitude. Have you ever listened to Voice of Report of the Week? Absolutely, so many times. I like what John does on this show. It's always entertaining and interesting. RJ Dakota always enjoys Radio RSA on weekends. Radio RSA. Let's get Radio RSA on the air here. You guys want to hear that? Let's get a little retro tonight, and we'll try to answer questions another time. You know what? I'm in that mood tonight. I was a little. There's so much things to do today. And so here is Radio RSA. Here is Radio RSA.
You
are tuned to the English service of Radio RSA, the voice of South Africa in Johannesburg.
This brings me back in my teenage years so much. I remember every little detail of that song, of every little detail of how the broadcast of Radio RSA was. Oh, man.
The time is 2 hours Universal Time. This is Radio RSA, the voice of South Africa, broadcasting from Johannesburg, and we're transmitting to the United States of America and to Canada. And we're broadcasting on 9580 kilohertz in the 31 meter band, 9615 kilohertz.
9615, we got tons of QSLs on that one.
And 6010 kilohertz in the 49 meter band. In our transmission, the news, followed by editorial comment, then our news magazine, Africa South. And we start with the news read by Colin Jackson. In his bulletin, the chief of the South African Defence Force says he believes there's less chance now of another large-scale SWAPO infiltration into Namibia. The Angola...
So amazing. Hey, Gunner66, nice to have you here from Saskatchewan. What are your recommendations for keeping the longevity of a radio? I have some old and new and don't want to. I think the longevity of a radio goes with, first of all, the handling. So if you use them regularly, being careful and how you handle them and how you take care of them. Keeping the radios as dust-free as possible probably helps a lot. Keep them from stresses. What is stresses? What I mean by that is extreme heat, extreme cold. Don't put them in the sunlight, stuff like that. Electronics is rather rough and tough, but you can make sure that these actually accomplish a longevity if you just take proper care of them and keep them clean and all the time. MK Youngs, nice to have you here from Elmira, New York, and 2QQE. And we have. Hey, Gordon Lyle, nice to have you here. My setup's getting better. Love it. Cool. No, not tonight. No transmissions on shortwave tonight. Usually it's through Seco Radio Pirate. Dr. Sysop overloaded Nikon 7300. Oh, wow. And a Yaesu 7757 ham radio. That's kind of crazy. I know that I'm behind in the chat. You don't need anybody to tell me that. I see the time. I have a timestamp on every comment here. So I know I'm behind. Gunner 66. Got a PL680 in my garage that I leave on the airband. I'm going to prematurely burn it out. No. You do not burn out a radio because it's on 24 hours. It doesn't work like that. Electronics is not prone to, unless it's really, really battered and really beaten up. Leaving a radio on 24 hours is not going to kill it. There's a false impression that, probably because of the mechanic stuff. Everything that is mechanical, the more you use it, the more it will be closer to breaking down, because the mechanical side of any device eventually wears out. In electronics, like a radio, say you turn it on and you leave it on 24 hours on a specific frequency, it doesn't really change anything. Unless it's running real hot or really stressed out for some reason, a radio will run 100 years on the same frequency. What will happen over years and decades is the components slowly move off from their nominal measures, their nominal capacitors, resistors will move on from their nominal measures. So 100 ohm resistor might be 104 ohms in 10 years from now, because of chemical reactions and changes and thermal reactions. But for the most part, electronics doesn't wear out easily, and it's not. If you use a radio or any device electronic 24 hours a day, it doesn't wear out faster than being off 24 hours a day at all. So what else do we have? What else do we have? Let me go down. Does a PL880 have airband? Does it? If it's like the 990X, it does not. Yeah, okay, that's the thing. It's like the 990X. It does not have airband. If you want to have airband, you'll have to get a 660. William S. Does each astronaut have a ham license? What if one does not have one? Can they broadcast the ham radio up there? So no, it's not. You don't have to be ham licensed to be an astronaut, but only ham licensed hams can operate the International Space Station ham station. That's for sure. Dr. Sisop says, I got my PL990X to go down to 64, 108. All I hear from 64, 87.5 is your local FM mirroring of some frequencies. B-Rice, that sounds awesome. Line Picker, that's so cool listening to that stuff. So what other station do you want to hear, guys? Give me station names, and we're going to try to find either an interval signal or a broadcast of some sort. You guys want to hear that? So give me 2 seconds. I'm 9 minutes behind in the chat. I'm going to go down real fast. Give us, if you guys want to hear something, give me a station name. I will try to get either the interval signal of the station or some broadcast if I can. I can't promise I'll get everything, but we're going to try it. Let's have a little fun tonight going back in time also. What do we have? Magnitude, how old I was? 13 years old. Well, probably earlier than that because my father had a multi-band radio I found interesting. So probably like 11 or 12 years old when it started. Thomas Lane, nice to have you here. Wow. Nice to have you here from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Long-time shortwave listener here. Cool. Welcome aboard. Ivan, thank you for the radio Moscow tune. My mother heard it from far away and came in running. She used to listen to it. She even won a trip to Moscow. Wow. That is so cool. That is so cool. Yeah, the Royal Canadian Air Force. That was fun on Radio Canada International. Okay, let's go down. 73s for those that are leaving. Take care. What else do we have? Jason Francis, nice to have you here from Ottawa. Thank you very much for the Christmas lights. Let's So what else? Joe Sambranuos, nice to have you here from Brazil. Always nice to have you here. Rich, nice to have you here from North Carolina. Humidity is bad for radios. Yeah, when it's too high, it's there's kind of an average that we have to keep in. Roger Wilco, nice to have you here. Thomas Lane used to have used numerous rigs down through the years. Currently listening through the Yaesu H70 and Grundig Satellite 700. Michael Andrew says a paintbrush great for dust busting radios. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. RJ88 Dakota also used to receive Springbok radio on 4810, African Service 4880. I remember listening to Sonder Grins on the 3 megahertz range. I even have a QSL card from that here. Man, pretty crazy. So Calf had no TV channels in South Africa until 1976, so grew up sitting around radio with my folks listening to Springbok radio and a good radio drama shows. Wow, pretty crazy. Thomas Lane, why did you let it expire? I am call sign KC8TBUI. Yeah, you need to. You need to get back. Don't let it expire. WWV in the 80s. Oh, man. HCJB, voice of the Andes. James Wiersma. Nice to have you here. HCJB. So HCJB, first of all, the interval signal. So HCJB's interval signal, which was this. And, of course, one of the things that a lot of us were listening to on ACJB back then was a show called the DX Party Line.
Party Line. This is a program for DXers by DXers and about the DXing hobby. We invite you to stay tuned for the next 30 minutes to the DX Party Line. It's Monday, time for another Monday edition of the DX Party Line. I'm Clayton Howard, your host, and my wife Helen will be along a little later in the program. And this is rather...
So, DJB and DX Party Line. Well, Pirate Station is kind of a tough one because, or we'll listen to some number stations, you'll see. Radio Sweden from the 80s. That's interesting. Look, guys, I need to go pee. And you guys wanted me to continue and let's go retro and listen to old stuff? I'm going to go fill this, okay? So I will leave you with the DX Party Line for the time that I need to go pee. And I'm coming back in 2 minutes.
Program. Let's get on with the business that's ahead of us. And we would like to encourage you to write to us. Write to the DX Party Line. Don't write to me anymore. Write to John Beck, who will be taking over the broadcast. That last name, Beck, is spelled B-E-C-K. Write to John Beck, and I'm sure you'll find he'll cooperate just as much as I've tried to in the past. Our address is the DX Party Line, care of HCJB, Box 691, Quito, Ecuador, South America. This is Monday. We're starting a new week. And as usual on the Monday broadcast, we like to welcome a few new members to our Index Club. Before we do this,
let me just mention again that if you don't have information on the club, if you haven't heard of it before, you'd like information, just write to us here at that same address, the DX Party Line, care of HCJB, Box 691, Quito, Ecuador. Tell us you're interested in Andex, and we'll see if you get all the information, the application form, and we hope you will fill it out and send it in, become a member of this club. We're just almost to the 5,000 mark in the number of those who have joined Andex. I was hoping that we would reach that magic number of 5,000 while I was still hosting the program, but we're less than 20 away from it, so in another 2 or 3 weeks, we will be reaching 5,000, and we'll find out who number 5,000 is. Here are the new members that we're welcoming today. First is Gordon Sheack of Greenfield, Glasgow, Scotland. He's member number 4976. Roberto Degni of Sora, Italy, member number 4977. Chris Doman of Dusseldorf, West Germany, member number 4978. Helmut Lausiker of Hofburn, West Germany, member number 4979. Chris Hawk of Omaha, Nebraska, member number 4980. Herb Blashy of Lackawanna, New York, member number 4981. Michael Pace of Tipton, Iowa, in the United States, is member number 4982. So a very cordial welcome to each one of you. We hope you've heard from our club secretary by this time with your first mailing as an Andex member. If not, you should be hearing very soon. If you're listening for your name and you didn't hear it today, well, tune in a week from today and maybe we'll have you in the list at that time. If you still want information, as I mentioned just a few moments ago, just write to us at the DX Party Line, care of HCJB, Box 691, Quito, Ecuador, South America. And now let's continue with our interval signal feature. Each week we're featuring a different interval signal from some international shortwave broadcaster. This is the
And we are back. Seems that the clip has ended. So, okay, let's continue. Radio Saint Elena, Radio Sweden. Okay, let's Radio Sweden with Sweden calling the X's. Let's do that. So let's do the interval signal. Which was this. That's Radio Sweden, interval signal.
Radio Sverige, Stockholm.
Radio Sweden, Stockholm.
And we have Sweden calling the Xers.
Africa. Welcome to edition number 1575 of Sweden Calling the Xers. And today's program was compiled with the help of 65 contributors. And this week we'll start off with some publications. First of all, Mickey Vasella has just published the third issue of External Services of African Stations. This is issued on a regular basis each March, May, September, and November as a free supplement for the subscribers to QTH Africa, which comes out every 10 days. External Services of African Stations is also available separately.
Well, Radio St. Helena. Okay, let's see here. Radio St. Helena. St. Helena. Going to anything here? Yep. This is from the 15th of November 2009. Radio St. Helena broadcasting on 11092.5 kilohertz. Sounds like their national anthem. And I missed that. That was so cool that once a year, Radio St. Helena broadcast. That was kind of the thing you looked forward to. You wanted to listen to that Radio St. Helena special broadcast on 11092.5 kilohertz upper sideband. That was so cool. I listened to that for probably 5 or 6 years until they stopped. The reason they stopped is that so 11092.5 kilohertz was their kind of utility station broadcasting messages, and they decommissioned that station, so they didn't have the transmitter anymore. The year after, they still did one because ham radio operators chipped in to help in the broadcast, but transmitter wasn't there anymore, so it's kind of difficult to do anything. So do they talk here? There we go. And let's see what we can hear.
Welcome, my name is John Woodward, and I welcome you to Radio St. Helena, 1009. We are broadcasting not only on radio wave, 15.8 kilohertz, but on shortwave, 11092, decimal 5, from 2000 hours to 0100 hours on the episode band USC. We are next lined up for you with very special occasion where we shall be joining around the world.
So Nick wants to have Radio Romania interval signal. So let's we're going to do this in a very interesting way. So I'm going to go to intervalsignals.net. We're going to go to Romania. And we're going to listen to Romania, Radio Romania International External Service of 19. So here is 1985 interval signal of Radio Bucharest. So in 1982, when I started listening to shortwave, Radio Romania was Radio Bucharest. And this is what the interval signal was all about back then. And let me just go here. So Radio Bucharest, 1985 interval signal back then was this.
This is Bucharest.
And here is a 1989 broadcast, and it says that it is 1989 coup announcement, apparently. So history in the making. Radio Bucharest, 1989 on this one.
This is Radio Bucharest, Romania. This is Radio Bucharest, Romania. Listeners, following the great popular manifestations in the capital city of Romania, Bucharest, and all over the country, today, December 22nd, 1989, the dictatorial regime of Nicolae Ceausescu was overthrown. At 16:30 local time in Bucharest, created was the National Committee of Democracy in Romania, whose main objective is the preparation for the passage to a democratic life in this country. The former Prime Minister and the entire former government resigned. Members of the National Committee of Democracy of Romania are military commanders not compromised during the Ceausescu dictatorship, workers, higher education students that were in the forefront of the struggle for the overthrow of the former regime, as well as intellectuals. Shortly after the creation of this democratic organism, the members informed the nation about the resignation of the government and about the components of the National Committee of Democracy and about the measures proposed for the next period. We would like you to stay tuned to Radio Bucharest, Romania, as we will keep you informed about
That was truly news in the making here with that station. Any number station from the 80s, says Joe, some of the new house. Okay, give me 2 seconds here. Radio Tahiti. Unfortunately, I don't have much. I'm going to check out here, but I don't have a lot of anything about Radio Tahiti. Radio Tahiti shortwave. Let's see if I can find something. Anything about that? Unfortunately, I don't have anything to offer to you. Sorry, man. Seems a hard one to come by. As for interval signals, number stations. So number stations. Any number stations of the 80s. Here it goes. Let's check out here. Number stations of the 80s. I could play. Here it goes. Let's check it out. This was one that was let me just give you guys won't take long. So here's one from the 80s. This one was the Swedish Rhapsody number station. That sounds weird. Sounds actually creepy when you think about it. That really sounds creepy, actually. Imagine how we cannot be traumatized by the time period with those stations. It sounds so creepy. Joe, only had to hear 2 seconds of HCJB to know it was them. Absolutely. K7 AZR Arizona picked up a PRN 1000 for the people. Shortwave radio. Think it's a basic Drake receiver. Nice audio. It's nice radio, honestly. Thomas Lane had an old Panasonic radio I used on my roof and listened to the old marine ship to shore bands. I remember listening to the phone calls, and not a lot of them were in English or French. It was like really, really amazing. It was, it was the first for you guys that ever did that. Listening to the phone calls from ship to shore on the marine bands was the listening to phones before we could listen to cell phones and cordless phones on the scanner radios. But it was international, which was kind of weird. Greg Walker, do you ever transmit just listening? Except for a CB. Roger Wilka, should I buy one of those SDR RF and portal pack with the Mayhem firmware? I don't have any personal experience with them, so I don't know. Gordon Lyle, Christmas lights on the window look like doing a show from a club. His live shortwave show. Yeah. Half price, 2 for 1 on the drinks until midnight. B Rice, I have the Texan PL880 and can confirm that it does not have hairband. Yeah, it does not. Thanks. Gunner 66, thank you for the info. Nice to know. I can leave. Soon radio's going. Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's going to be okay. Cats drink free. Joe Cool, nice to have you here, Jills. I watched an older video of yours. I think it was from 6 years ago. Shortwave signal of what sounded like police from New York. Do you remember that video, or was that police on shortwave? It's not impossible that I had some local police or stuff. Ivan says, that I've never heard the signal from the radio of my country, Argentina. Do you have it? I'm curious. Yeah, there's, of course, RAE and Argentina. That is a well-known station. Let's see here. Let's go to Argentina. I'd always loved Argentina's interval signal on RAE when they broadcast from the transmitter site in Argentina, because I always found it so amazing. The multilingual one they have, it just felt like we were welcome to listen to their broadcast. It was a friendly voice of shortwave, and I miss the fact that we could listen to them on 11710 or 117 whatever plus or minus 1 or 2 kilohertz, because they were off sometimes, because that was a representation of what I find to be a very friendly shortwave voice, honestly. No, that's not the one. That's from 1982. That's too old. So I didn't know they had a different interval signal in 1982. They had one. Let me just check here, guys. Radio RAE. Oh, maybe I didn't. Radio Argentina al exterior. Multilingual. Okay, that's the one I want. Okay, that's the one I want. Here we go. From 2008. This is probably what I want to hear. And here is RAE Argentina. RAE Argentina. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I'm used to hearing.
RAE Argentina.
RAE Argentina.
RAE Argentine.
RAE Argentinian.
RAE Argentina.
So I'm gonna go forward a little bit. And this was the second part that I found really cool. This is what I found made us feel like welcome. It was like positive. I don't know.
RAE Argentina.
I don't know.
Hola,
It feels
amigos.
happy.
Esta es RAE, Radiodifusión Argentina al Exterior.
Salut les amis, vous écoutez RAE, Radiodiffusion Argentine vers l'extérieur.
Hello, friends. This is RAE, the international service of the Argentine radio.
Oh, man. I love RAE Argentina through WRMI, but I miss the original from Argentina. Jet Crafter, nice to have you on board from Maine. Stephen Wood wants to hear Botswana. So there's a story, by the way, guys, between Botswana. This interval signal from Botswana, believe it or not, is created entirely with the staff of Radio Botswana. So all the animals that you hear in this interval signal are actually human-made voices of animal or human reproduction of animal animal sounds. I learned that later, and it was like, really? Okay. So they went to the really, really, difficult. So Radio Botswana, that was an easy one to know that you were listening to them when that was on the air. The cowbells and everything.
This is Radio Botswana broadcasting from Gaborone.
Incredible. Now, that's going back in time. That's really going back in time. Hector Vasquez, heard capacitors leak eventually. Yeah, some do. But modern electronics is much more it's not like, like there were, first of all, the first generation, like tube radios, a lot of them had paper capacitors. Those would dry out. That's why a lot of older tube radios failed. Then we had some radios. Yes, some capacitors may actually leak or may have problems. And that's why a lot of actually of good radios, people will recap them. They'll actually change all the capacitors because it is possible. But modern electronics is rather rough. And today's capacitors are actually quite surprising in how their longevity, if you want. Andy Tobin, nice to have you here. Is Artie still on Radio Havana? You know what? I was listening to Radio Havana Cuba last week, I think. Was surprised to hear that the DXers Unlimited show was not actually produced by Arnie Coro, but somebody else. So it's like, okay. Hector Vasquez, that Grundig satellite receiver right here is an amazing 1969 radio. Jeff King says there's a Facebook page dedicated to remembering HCJB. Cool. James, where's my? He once wrote a letter to HCJB with their mailback program. They send me a postcard letting me know the exact date and time my letter would be read on the air. Very exciting as a teenager. Absolutely. I had the same with Radio Moscow. That was so exciting. Gunner 66, any fellow Canadians want throwback? There's a YouTube video about an hour long of a guy just randomly videoing 1050 CJNB in Saskatchewan. Pretty cool. Thomas Lane, Holder Grundig rigs. Well, when rigs were made by Grundig, they're all pretty amazing radios. Can tell you that. What else do we have? K6YYL. I'm still cooking and have moved on from drinking whiskey to wine. That's a mix. Kimberly, if tomorrow you have a headache, don't blame it on me. Whiskey to wine. Ouch. I've stayed to vodka. I had one vodka before the show, one vodka in the show, and the third vodka with the going to the old and to the old days of shortwave broadcasting. Denis Blot, bonjour et bienvenue. Nice to have you on board from Quebec. Got his license since 2012. What else do we have? VA2TDJ. Gunner 66, of course I did listen so many times to the Royal Canadian Air Force. Actually, when they were broadcast on the Radio Canada International, they were actually broadcast in the CBC local stream here in the local stations. So, of course, I did so many times. But what's different, what's very special here. So I'm from Quebec being more francophone. The English side of the CBC is not very popular here in the province of Quebec. It might be in other provinces, but it's a very unique thing of Canada. And so I know of the Canadian Air Force through RCI, because if I had never known shortwave, I don't know if I would have ever known about it, which is kind of interesting when you think about it. Thomas Lane, you have a QSL collection. I am so proud of my favorite correspondence. is a collection of cards and newspaper clips sent to me from engineer Radio Cairo way back in 1987. Cool. Joel is practicing iHeartRadio autopilot. Well, it was not just peeing. It's that Paul the cat wanted food, so it took a little more time than I thought. Well, I don't know why you're banning him, Bobby Burgess. I don't understand it. Everyone here is taking a pee break. Nick says, just joined. What's up? We're talking about radio, shortwave radio, and all of that. Mickey Dalmage says, interesting to hear Andex membership reaching 5,000. I remember I was member 83. Yes, I am old. I don't remember my number, but I did send in my membership to Andex at some point, and I do remember that. And that, anyways, makes us old. Keegan, nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas. Mike WDX50 says, really enjoy Radio Sweden. Yeah, I loved Radio Sweden. I loved Radio Norway. So I'm going to go on my own little moment here. Let me just go back down. Go back down, guys. I will just, what else do we have? Man, I'm getting behind, guys, because there's a lot of requests, but we're gonna try to go as much as I can. Okay, hang in there. So I will put one that I am fond of. The broadcast only in English on Sundays. So what station? What station only broadcast in English on Sunday? You guys remember that? That was a station called Radio Norway International. So this is... I was a big fan of the Nordic countries. Oh man, brings me back in time. Hello there, aerial imaging.
Dette er Norge med utenlandsprogrammet. Vi sender klokka 11 GMT, klokka 12 norsk tid, mot Europa, Indonesia, Australia og det fjerne Østen på 6,015 MHz i 49 meterbåndet på 20...
That was Radio Norway International. And now for our friend Sokol, Radio Netherlands from Hilversum. Radio Netherlands Shortwave. Netherlands. Shortwave. There we go. Radio Netherlands. Let's see. This one is from Final Shortwave Broadcast in English. Oh ho. 8 years ago. Let's start by doing the interval signal. Farewell to Radio Netherlands worldwide shortwave broadcast from Bonaire.
Als reuzenkakteen zijn op het Antilliaanse eiland.
Okay, no, that's not what I wanted. So let's start with the interval signal. The interval signal was always interesting. Another station that had an interesting interval signal that I do miss that they don't have an international side to it. They're still on shortwave, but in a very reduced form. And it's this one, Deutsche Welle. Thomas Lane, Vatican Radio is still on the air. It still has English, French, and different language services in a reduced schedule, but they are to Africa, Middle East, and Asia. So if you look at eibispace.de website, just search for Vatican, you'll see that they still have quite a few broadcasts in different languages. So, yep, it's still on the air. Vatican Radio is still there. James Johnson, are these files you have? No, it's a mix of YouTube and a website called intervalsignals.net. Martin, nice to have you here from Chicago. SoCal, Radio St. Helena transmitter must have been drained all the island's power. Not a lot of people there for sure. Absolutely. Michael Langer says, I thought I had him with a St. Helena. Takes more than that, man. Takes more than that. What else do we have? Swiss Radio International, Mike, WDX50. That was a good one, too. Swiss Radio International. Swiss Radio International. We have on Swiss Radio International here. Here we go. That is truly a shortwave reception that was recorded on tape or something. And what about this one? Can someone tell me what
Canada International?
What country is that? What country can that be? I have no idea.
Radio Canada International.
Radio-Canada International.
Radio Canada International.
Radio-Canada International.
Radio Canada International.
Radio-Canada International.
Play Shom FM, says Joe Cool.
Radio Canada International.
Radio-Canada International.
Turn down your house lights, will be very pretty trippy, says John Young.
Radio Canada International.
Radio-Canada International.
John Wayne says, I love this signal recordings, absolute memories, absolutely. It brings us back so way back. I can tell you that. Radio Free Grenada. Radio Free Grenada. Lincolnshire Poacher. Yeah, that was one. Oh, the old school stuff is gold. Really appreciate what you're producing. I like medium wave DXing on our old farm truck. Man, this is cool. Absolutely. This is so cool. Creepy ice cream truck. Levy Nathan, nice to have you here. Somebody asked me for Israel, actually. Here is Call Israel Shortwave. It's interesting how they give the time in Eastern Standard Time rather than UTC.
For full program schedule, please write to External Brothers, Israel Radio, Jerusalem, Israel. And Shalom from Jerusalem.
Man. Call Israel. John Wayne says shortwave was and is full of creepy sounds. Absolutely. Absolutely. Matt says, I just watched the series Truth Seekers. Oh, I'm going through that. And the Lincolnshire Poacher is all barred. Yeah, absolutely, Matt. I am a new Amazon Prime subscriber because I buy so much on Amazon. Let's go for it. And I started looking at Truth Seekers. And the first episode, when I heard the Lincolnshire Poacher, I was like, oh man, look at that. Kind of interesting. It was fun to see, absolutely. I was like, oh man, this is so cool. Has a shortwave mystery weird side to it. Oh God. Shower Sombra in US says, wow, I couldn't imagine listening to this in the 80s as a child without any idea that it was this creepy sound. Oh God. Oh God. What else we have? Yeah. It's sad that today's generation will not hear what shortwave was about in our old times, because it was amazing. That's for sure. Prasad listening to All in Your Radio News at 0230 UT. Fierce cyclone on the East Coast with winds up to 150 kilometers per hour. Stay safe, guys. Gunner 66, this has to be one of the best shows I've listened to. I have to work tomorrow, but I'll gladly go and burnt out. Love it. Take care. There's a lot of creepy stuff. Voice of Turkey. So, okay, Voice of Turkey. Today we have an interval signal, but Voice of Turkey had a different interval signal back in the, what was it? Even early 2000s, I think Turkey was already on that. So Turkey, when I wanted to listen to Turkey in my good old days when I was young, I would listen to this interval signal from Voice of Turkey. This is from 1982, and this is what I wanted to hear if I wanted to listen to the Voice of Turkey. No, that was not. That's one. So that's 1982, apparently.
This is the Voice of Turkey, broadcasting for listeners in Asia on the 19-meter band, 15,125 kilohertz.
So that was 1982. Mine was not that one. Mine was, is it this one? Let's check it out. This is Voice of Turkey, 2004. Yeah, that was what I was listening to. Now, that was my Voice of Turkey back in the 80s.
This is the Voice of Turkey. You are tuned to the Voice of Turkey, broadcasting from studios in Ankara. Our English language transmissions are on the air every day between 1930 and 2020 hours UTC on 6,055 kilohertz in the 49-meter band into Europe. Between 21
Hello there, Larry Cordy.
hours UTC on 9,000
The No Code Tech, nice to have you on board.
31-meter band into
We're going back in
Australia,
time. Throat Punch, nice to have you on board.
On 6,050
Says beer before liquor,
in the 49
never been
band,
sicker.
and on
Liquor before beer,
9,655 kilohertz
you have
in the
nothing to
31-meter
fear.
band in Europe and North
Okay.
America. The Voice of Turkey is also on the air every day between 04 and 0450 hours UTC on 7,240 kilohertz.
Thomas Olson says, great memories of times past. Thanks for the recording. Long ago in early 50s, WLS in Chicago had a newscast that included shortwave excerpts from what they called our listening posts. Wow. Oh yeah, Paul the Cat is doing well. Bonne nuit, TVD Exer. Fais attention à toi. À la prochaine. Yeah, Radio Canada International. Dan V says, you might explain interval signals for people. Yep. Because a lot of people ask that question regularly and wonder why stations play the same tunes all the time at the beginning of their broadcasts. It might feel like today is like a weird thing because of most radios we buy have, digital readouts of frequency. But remember that back in 1982, digital readout radios were expensive. If you want to have something that actually gave you the frequency in numbers, you had to shed a lot of money. Plus the fact that a lot of, and still today, a lot of, radios in third world nations and other parts of the world are analog radios. So when I used my DX100, which is an analog radio, if I wanted to find radio RSA, for example, I would tune in a couple of minutes before the hour of their broadcast and search for the interval signal of radio RSA. It's a tune that's made to give you enough time to find their station so you know you're listening to them. So interval signals are there to help mostly people that use analog radios find a station before they broadcast. They're still used today by some stations, although they are not as frequent as they were in the past. But interval signals were very important. I mean, as a guy that had an analog radio for his first couple of years of shortwave, I can tell you, thank God interval signals existed, because I knew what I was listening to. That's for sure. So, what else do we have? What else do we have? Quirks and Quarks, yep. Joe Cool, are there any DRM stations to listen to? Yeah, but they're kind of difficult shortwave because of the fading. Honestly, DRM is not winning on shortwave. It never will. So hey guys, so Yogi May says interval signals can be abused by some stations. FEBC is known to broadcast their interval signal for 1 minute after their scheduled broadcasts. Yeah, you know. So hey guys, 3 hours and 7 minutes. We're gonna say goodbye, and we're gonna say goodbye with my favorite anthem of what is for me Radio Moscow. So I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I want to thank everybody for being great fans. We're going to be back on Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 20 hours Universal Time. And I hope that you enjoyed the show tonight. Stay safe, my friend. Stay safe, my friend, okay? And see you soon. Bye-bye. Happy Thanksgiving, guys, in the U.S. This is Dancing with the Stars, Laura Robinson. Happy Thanksgiving, you guys in the U.S. And I hope to see all of you Saturday. Love you all. Stay safe.